Tonight, Air Canada cancels flights to and from Italy.
Once the flight attendant told us this was the last flight coming to Canada, I was just like, oh, thank God, we got it.
The number of coronavirus cases in that country has surged to over 9,000 plus.
Put all this money and effort towards our children's future.
Dozens of parents are wondering what's happened to their children's frozen stem cells and cord blood now that the company storing them won't return their calls. And the moment a tow truck is set on fire, caught on camera, torched as part of an ongoing turf war in the industry. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. A Sudbury man in his 50s is the province's latest case of COVID-19. We're learning the man attended a mining conference here in Toronto last week at the Metro Toronto Convention Centre. Now, anyone who was at that conference is being asked to monitor for symptoms for the next 14 days. Now, this latest case brings the total number in Ontario to 37. That is a stark contrast to what they're seeing in Italy, where the situation continues to worsen. Overnight, the country recorded nearly 1,000 new cases of the disease, with almost 170 deaths in just 24 hours. That has prompted Air Canada to suspend all flights to and from the country. Ramna Shahzad was at Pearson Airport tonight for some of the final flights for now.
Midnight, I got a call saying, look, everything in Italy is a red zone now.
A last-minute scramble for this young couple as they packed their belongings and managed to snag a spot on one of the last few Air Canada flights from Rome to Toronto.
In the last 2-3 days, it was getting pretty intense. I was panicking, plus we had to pack up the entire house, so everything into these 8 suitcases.
I'm happy that we're out of there. Once the flight attendant told us this was the last flight coming to Canada, I was just like, oh, thank God, we got it.
Italy has a total of more than 9,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19 and nearly 500 deaths. It is the worst hit nation after China, with Italians across the country facing travel restrictions and sweeping quarantine measures.
Supermarkets basically were shut down. I tried to go to the pharmacy, I couldn't get any of our meds, toilet paper.
There was lines outside of stores. Restaurants had to be closed by 6 p.m. All public gatherings were canceled. School was canceled.
For travelers not heading to Italy, it's business as usual despite COVID-19 fears, the majority of them going through with their plans.
You're heading on a cruise.
Yes. Yes. It's been booked. It's been in the planning for about a year and a half. So
we figured, let's go ahead and chance it. If it's going all over, and it's going all over.
Air Canada plans to resume service between Canada and Italy on May 1st. For now, it's in the process of informing all of its affected customers about their different travel options, including getting a full refund. Ramna Shahzad, CBC News, Toronto.
A 6-year-old girl is in serious condition after she fell from an apartment building on Jane Street today.
What we've determined is the child resides on the 12th floor. We haven't determined that the child actually fell from that distance. We're still, again, canvassing the entire building, trying to speak with witnesses to figure out and piece together exactly what happened here.
Police say it happened around 2 o'clock. Paramedics rushed the little girl to sick kids on an emergency run. They say she had some serious injuries, but was conscious and breathing at the time. Police are still looking into what happened and are asking anyone with any information to give them a call. There is a new procedure in place at the Toronto District School Board when it comes to attendance. Staff will now have just 75 minutes to notify parents when a student is absent. That change comes days after a 14-year-old boy became the subject of an Amber Alert after he didn't show up at school. The teen was found safe, but the board is still investigating how his absence went unnoticed by staff at Newton Brook Secondary School. TDSB spokesperson Ryan Bird says staff missed the attendance reporting deadline at 11 a.m. The boy's parents weren't notified of his absence until after 6 o'clock. 4 staff members at Newton Brook are still on home assignment in the wake of the incident. Bird says the change was needed after an initial review found high schools across the city had different policies regarding when to call parents. The Crown got to cross-examine the man accused in the murder of Tess Ritchie today. Kaylin Schlater maintains that Richie was alive when he left the stairwell where she was later found dead. Alice Chasson has the details.
Crown Attorney Bev Richards tries to paint Kaylin Schlater as a liar in the witness box. She asks why he told a friend that he and Tess Ritchie went home together, when instead they hooked up in the stairwell where she was later found dead. He said he didn't want to admit that he ejaculated in his pants and left. The Crown goes on to ask him about lies he told the undercover cops in the cells beside him. He said he was posturing to hide the fact that he's bisexual. The Crown Attorney: you lie to avoid embarrassment, you lie to impress people, you lie to protect yourself, don't you? Schlater responds, not all the time, only in certain situations. He was asked about how well he knew the area of Church and Wellesley. He said he wasn't too familiar. Then the Crown takes out Schlater's cell phone records. They show his phone pinged at the area's cell tower several times, both before and after Richie's disappearance on November 25th, 2017. For 4 weekends in a row you're there, but after Tess Ritchie is found, you don't come around that weekend? I don't know why I wasn't in that area. I bet you I do. I did not murder Tess Ritchie. Kaylin Schlater says he met Richie on the sidewalk outside Cruise and Tango's, and she initiated the first kiss. She suggested to go to the stairwell to make out some more, and she was alive, sitting on the railing when he left. The Crown countered that, alleging she wasn't all that interested in hanging around him. They showed a video of Richie hailing a cab to leave, but then Schlater steps in and waves the cab away. He said the cab was holding up traffic. They go to the stairwell sometime afterwards. Kaylin Schlater took a cab home that night, but he bailed on it early, he said, because he felt like he was going to throw up from the booze. The Crown prosecutor finished her cross-examination today by saying, quote, you weren't feeling well because you know this is what you left at the bottom of the stairwell. She held up a photo of Tess Ritchie's dead body. The next witness will be called on Thursday. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Premier Ford is officially asking the federal government to open up its wallet and help out with construction of 4 major transit projects in the Toronto area.
Now it's time for Ottawa to join us, to fund their fair share, to fund 40% of these subways, because these projects are nationally significant.
Now, the funding would go to the 3-stop Scarborough subway extension, the Eglinton Crosstown West expansion, the Yonge North extension, and the all-new Ontario line. The transit lines are expected to cost a combined $28.5 billion. The request is coming just ahead of the First Minister's meeting in Ottawa later this week.
I'll be taking a delegation of my ministers with me, Team Ontario. We will meet with the Prime Minister and our federal counterparts. We will lay out Ontario's priorities and expectations in advance of the federal budget.
And today, the Ontario government also announced the first phase of looking at companies to look at tunneling work for the transit lines along Eglinton and in Scarborough. Both lines, along with the Yonge North extension, are expected to be completed sometime around 2030. The Ontario line as early as 2027. Colette Kennedy's here with the first look at the forecast. We got to talk about that cool down today.
Yeah, what a big change. You know, we started this day off, Mike, it kind of had the feel of yesterday. Oh, is it going to be another one of those? If you hadn't been paying attention to the forecast, you might have thought so. At 11 a.m., look at some of these readings, 11 degrees, Toronto, Hamilton, St. Catharines. But then as that cold front went through, the southwesterly winds turned to the northwest, got a little bit gusty, and just by late afternoon, Barrie down to freezing and Toronto 5, but Oshawa down to 3, Hamilton 4 degrees. So a big change there just as we approach the lunch hour and move through it. Now, we are looking as we go towards tomorrow morning at some cloud cover moving in after a clearing trend tonight, and then even into the afternoon, maybe a few isolated flurries, particularly to the north of the GTA. We could have one stray one coming through our skies, so that is certainly possible. The next system really moves in later on Thursday, so I want to get into some details on the timing with that and what you can expect. But for now, overnight, down to 0 and back closer to seasonal. We're going to see high of 2 to perhaps 3 degrees for tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, thanks a lot, Colette.
The weather update is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
There are a number of concerns being raised tonight over a Toronto police plan to put up surveillance cameras in Chinatown. Now, there are 3 planned for Dundas and Spadina, Dundas and Bathurst, and Queen and Augusta. But as Lisa Shing tells us, many residents are worried about their privacy.
I teach a class on Thursday night, and I saw this notice on the counter. And I don't know how it came, or it was probably shoved under the door or something like that. And it gives you cause for pause.
This instructor at the Hong Lek Kung Fu Club in Chinatown says he's against Toronto police installing new CCTV cameras in his neighborhood.
Who's handling the information? How is it stored?
Questions he asked at this community consultation meeting last night, where some people walked out because they didn't get many answers.
The decision makers were not there. The data that they used to support their decisions was not there.
The intersection of Dundas and Bathurst is one location where police want to put up cameras. And here at Queen and Augusta. And here at Dundas and Spadina too.
It's not just privacy concerns for the Friends of Chinatown group.
Reinforce some stereotypes about the people who live in this area in Chinatown and Kensington. And Friends of Chinatown just doesn't, one of our values is making sure that racialized people feel safe in the spaces that they take up and that they live in.
Toronto police say the cameras will also go up in other neighborhoods, including Jane and Finch. Residents there have also voiced opposition to the idea, especially after it was revealed Toronto police use Clearview AI, a controversial facial recognition tool that's after denying they were using it. Toronto police say the CCTV cameras have nothing to do with Clearview.
So it is just all about protecting the communities and identifying potentially dangerous suspects.
Police say they decide where to put the cameras based on crime stats as well as what they hear from officers on the ground. But people here in the community say they want to work with police to find a way to deter crime and not through the use of cameras. But it already sounds like a done deal. Police say they should be up here in the community by the end of the month or in early April. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
Coming up after the break, dozens of parents are worried about whether their child's potentially life-saving stem cells are even usable.
We put all this money and effort towards our children's future. So these samples, where are they? They keep moving them, or do they even exist? Do they ever exist?
And the company storing them won't even answer their calls. That CBC Toronto exclusive investigation after the break. For the past year and a half, a tow truck turf war has led to murders, multiple shootings, and cases of arson. And tonight we have video of one of those arsons from just about as close as you can get. The video is from inside a tow truck that was targeted. You can see the suspect pouring fluid on the front windshield. and lighting it all on fire. This happened Saturday, February 20th in Ajax. Durham police say afterwards the suspect fled on foot. It has been a violent 18 months. At least 2 men with ties to the towing industry have been shot and killed. And according to the president of the Provincial Towing Association, more than 80 tow trucks have been set on fire. Premier Doug Ford weighed in on the ongoing turf war today.
Unacceptable that what's happening on these turf wars with the tow trucks. There's a small group that's causing trouble out there that are lighting tow trucks on fire, smashing facilities, windows. It's unacceptable. And if you continue doing it, we're coming for you. We're going to catch you and you're going to jail. Simple as that.
Now, this relatively mild Ontario winter we're having has meant fewer collisions, and a combination of less business and a saturated tow truck market is believed to be contributing to the rise in recent violence. Well, we are hearing from dozens of parents tonight worried that after spending thousands of dollars to store potentially life-saving stem cells from their children's cord blood samples, they might not even be usable. That's because the Toronto company they've been paying to store them won't return their calls. A CBC News investigation has also found the company is facing a $600,000 lawsuit. Lauren Pelly has the exclusive story.
Both of our parents had cancer, so we want to make sure that we have, some sort of security for our children.
This Toronto couple has paid more than $8,000 to store their children's umbilical cord blood at a private facility. Like a growing number of Canadian families, they're hoping the stem cells could help treat their kids if they ever became sick with a health condition like leukemia.
We put all this money and effort towards our children's future.
The couple stored their kids' stem cells at the Toronto-based Cord Blood Bank of Canada, but the company hasn't charged their annual storage fees for the last 2 years, and the pair says the blood bank won't return their calls.
So these samples, where are they? They keep moving them, or do they even exist? Do they ever exist?
Other families are raising similar concerns.
Even if they call us back, we're not sending any more payment until we know that they can confirm we're actually paying for something.
In 2018, I actually did send a registered letter to her, or to them, I should say, begging for some kind of answer as to, is it still there? Is it viable? Just give me an answer to basically just let me know. And I never did.
This is the message parents hear when they try to call the company directly.
Hello, thank you for calling the Cord Blood Bank of Canada. Please be advised that due to a medical emergency, we are unable to respond to this telephone line except for to request to use your baby's cord blood for immediate use.
A CBC News producer also tried to reach the blood bank's owner at her home, but no answer. The Cord Blood Bank of Canada has refused to respond to any of our questions, citing privacy concerns. We've also learned a couple from Waterloo has filed a $600,000 lawsuit after they got a sample back, tested it, and found out it was no longer viable. In a statement of defense, the blood bank has denied all allegations of misconduct. We showed the company's defense to those frustrated Toronto parents.
The plaintiffs acted unreasonably if they were relying on the cord blood samples to provide peace of mind, and particularly if they held any belief that the samples could provide treatment options for either their children or themselves. What? That gives me chills.
The couple is now calling on the company to own up to any mistakes, saying the people who could be losing out here are children. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
It's cheap. Yo, why would you give me advice like that? Yo, why would you do it just that? 'Cause I don't want to be no copycat. Yo, why would I want to be that?
Well, they're going to be some of the youngest attendees at this year's Junos. They're actually going head-to-head for the same award. We'll introduce you to 2 GTA girl groups hoping to win big. Coming up. The Leafs back home tonight, welcoming Morgan Riley back on the ice after missing 23 games due to a broken foot. It's a potential playoff preview game against Tampa Bay. First period, Leafs with the man advantage. William Nylander scoring Toronto's first power play goal in 5 games. That makes it 1-0. Lightning tied up with 5 minutes to go in the second. Andre Palat gets one past Frederik Andersen. Let's go to the third period. Another power play for Toronto. Mitch Marner finds Austin Matthews through the traffic. He scores his 47th goal of the season. That puts the Leafs back on top. Toronto holds on to win 2-1. And we can't tell you what the Leafs made of tonight's game. The team is barring reporters from the locker room. It's all part of league-wide measures to control the spread of the coronavirus. This afternoon, the players spoke to the media from behind a podium all about the outbreak and the possibility of playing without any fans.
Obviously, it wouldn't be very fun, but it's at this point, speculation and hypothetical that I don't really want to spend much time thinking about.
It's not just, our league, it's worldwide what's happening, and obviously things in Europe are even more progressive with, soccer teams playing without anybody in the stands, and obviously the news with the San Jose, and, who knows what they're going to do.
And he's referring to the San Jose Sharks, who could soon play in an empty arena. The California county where they play is prohibiting all gatherings of more than 1,000 people. The ban takes effect tomorrow at midnight and will remain in place for 3 weeks, and that will affect 3 Sharks home games. Kelly Kennedy's back with her extended forecast. Tomorrow is not going to feel like the last couple days have felt.
No, it's not. We're going back to kind of seasonal temperatures. And if you want to know what those are, a little reminder, when you go to 17 degrees, boy, you're thinking, is spring here? No, this is where we kind of should be. The average high at this time of year, just under 3 degrees, and our average low around -6. We're actually going to be on the mild side overnight tonight, and then colder air is really moving in for tomorrow daytime and tomorrow towards the nighttime. You're going to see what happens there. I do want you to know, I know it's been clearing, but actually after clearing overnight, we get into clouds kind of building in tomorrow. The winds turn towards the east, so we'll be seeing variable skies. May thicken up a little bit, and some isolated flurries to the north, and a stray one could come through our skies here in the GTA. Then we get into a bit of a clear out again as we go towards tomorrow night. But as we start to wind into Thursday, you're going to find that late Thursday. So see how most of the day Thursday we're doing okay, but this is sitting back to the west of us. So we are going to see in the overnight hours this approaching, and it does mean some rain through the overnight, which will linger, by the way, into Friday morning. So that's something to be aware of. Friday being a big travel day for your morning commute, anything you're up to there, it may move a little bit more slowly. Overnight tonight for southwestern Ontario, northwesterly winds, temperatures dipping just below the freezing mark. And then tomorrow we're looking at a little system just kind of to the south as this kind of scoots through. Temperatures should come up about 8 degrees for Windsor and for Leamington, a little bit cooler off towards London, but you're probably going to pick up that cloud cover, and there's a risk, a slight chance a few showers could go through as well. Overnight tonight for the GTA, there you go, freezing mark for our temperature for those overnight conditions. And then even though we're clearing, then we have the clouds coming back in towards tomorrow. We see quite a bit of cloud cover as we go through the day. At times we'll get some sunshine in there, and those highs 2 to 3 degrees around the region. So there it is, all the way back to seasonal, but you know how our weather's been going lately, so don't necessarily think that's where we're staying. Of course not, because as we look ahead towards Thursday, 6 degrees, there's that rain moving in. That system is going to push our temperature up to almost 10 degrees. That's early on Friday, and then the temperature will fall through the day, and we'll look for some windy conditions and cooler air moving in, and then we bounce back up on Saturday. Just the up, down, Mike, keeps going.
Up and down like the roller coaster. Okay, thanks a lot, Colette.
You're welcome.
two girl bands from the GTA are rocking the Canadian music scene right now, at least when it comes to children's music. And they're both going to be competing for the Children's Album of the Year at this year's Junos.
Girl Power is just out to inspire other young girls and boys of all ages, really, and with our music, because all of our music has a positive message, which we wrote all ourselves.
Girl Power's 6 members range from 11 to 17 years old. The pop group gained its fan base through tours across Canada and the U.S. over the past few years. Now, the other band, G-Force, meanwhile, had its big break after making it to the quarterfinals on America's Got Talent last year.
America's Got Talent was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and it was honestly such a roller coaster of happy and sad times. It was incredible.
We were so nervous.
The two groups are among 5 nominees battling it out for Children's Album of the Year. The Juno Awards will be handed out this coming weekend in Saskatoon and carried live on CBC at 8 o'clock. The show will be hosted by another local artist, Alessia Cara. Tough category. They're up against Sharon and Bram and friends. That's our show for tonight. Thanks for watching. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Good night.